Hello and welcome to Scott Rock.
We're your hosts from Climb Scotland, Robert Mackenzie.
And me, Cal McBain, catch up with climbers every 2 weeks who have different epic tales to tell us.
We hope you enjoy the show.
And remember, when you're out climbing, be safe and do your buddy checks.
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya.
Happy birthday. Oh, we're recording. Yeah, okay. Yes, happy birthday to Scott Rock. We are now 3 years old. What a trip this has been. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself dancing about the country, interviewing and chatting to some super cool people and hearing some amazing stories. Thank you so much to all of our listeners out there. It's greatly appreciated to see how many people are listening to this podcast. Over the last 3 years, we have had 13,000 downloads across 42 different countries. So we're fully international here. It is awesome. Thank you so much, all of you. But it does get a little lonely back here behind my little microphone. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know, are you enjoying the podcast? Who's been your favourite person that you've heard from? Who do you want to hear from in the future? You know, feedback is always appreciated here at Scott Rock. So please, I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from our amazing audience out there. You can contact us with the info@climbscotland.net, or you can leave a comment on the podcast or leave a comment on our social media. Please, let us know what you're thinking. We want to hear from you. But yeah, today we are here with a really cool person. This is going to be a super climby, a bit in-depth, nitty-gritty kind of podcast with one of Scotland's strongest up-and-coming climbers. Jamie Lowther has come up through our competitions. We've seen him climbing hard indoors and out over the last few years, and last year he had one spectacular year where he ticked his first E1 and then very shortly after ticked his first E7. That is a major bump. So yeah, this one's a really, really cool episode. We get into the in depth with Jamie about his attitude to climbing and attitude to trying hard and what sport climbing, trad climbing, competitions mean to him, what climbing means to him. So really, really cool episode. So yeah, please sit back and enjoy the chat with Jamie Lowther.
I listened to quite a few at the start. Oh. You're right.
Oh, that was right in the soft bit of the funny bone. Oh, that's going to sound great in the interview.
Yeah, it's a good start.
That's how we start it. Must be the first person ever to injure themselves in a podcast interview.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really cool trip. I was still in Spain when I was seeing all the snow at home and the cold, and I was quite enjoying being warm. So
all right, rub it in.
Yeah. So I thought I'd look into
turn you into a winter climber. Yeah.
I was looking at another trip and where it'd be good to go. I kind of had to go somewhere where I don't have to drive because I can't hire a car yet. And then some people there were talking about Turkey and started researching it and looked at the places to stay. So I knew the climbing would be good, just looking at the walls. But I kind of saw a really nice place to stay and booked everything. And I guess it was my kind of, I was meant to only be there for a month and a week or so, and then
you were out there for significantly longer than that.
Yeah.
How did that occur?
So I got an email.
Did you get kidnapped or something?
I got an email from the ledge, kind of saying that we're not quite ready to get started yet. So for another month, so I got to stay for another month out there.
We don't need you quite yet. You stay in Turkey. You stay over there.
Which
nice.
It worked out well. Because I think I did most of my best climbing in that kind of second month.
Yeah. Where it does, like, it takes you, especially when you go to places with big climate changes and totally different rock types than what you're used to climbing on, because obviously there's not much limestone in Aviemore.
Yeah.
Like, it does take you a good few weeks to properly acclimatise to be able to crush.
Yeah, and it was quite different from Spain as well, the rock.
How so?
I think Spain, especially in
It's all
Altura, was...
limestone, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was more like pockety, polished, and like big holds, where like every route would have some kind of really good rest somewhere. Whereas in, or maybe it's just the difficulty routes I was trying, but when I was in Turkey, there was a lot more two-free kind of stuff that you don't get as much in Altura.
Is it maybe similar, more similar to like Kalymnos?
Possibly, maybe a little less featured than Kalymnos, though.
Right, okay.
Maybe somewhere in between.
So
But
like
like, so the
Kalymnos, but more technical.
possibly. I mean, I don't know how technical Kalymnos is, but there's
Have
a
you been to Kalymnos?
no.
Really?
Yeah,
What? I don't know why I thought you'd been there. So, like, whereabout in Turkey were you? We say Turkey. Turkey's quite a large country.
yeah. It's kind of an hour from Antalya. It's on the kind of, I think it's west-ish.
Right, okay. Sweet. So you're in the sun by the Med. Did you go swimming in the sea?
No, I never went to the sea.
What? So, like, obviously, like we said, Turkey's kind of... It's not been on the radar for all that long. Like you were telling me earlier, that like, Bolton's all still pretty new and stuff. So how much, in your research that you did beforehand, like, did you have routes that you want to go and do, like projects to go and do, or were you just going out to discover what was there? And
Yeah,
because like sitting here at home looking at your Instagram, it was like every day was like, oh, Jamie's crushed another hard thing. Oh, Jamie's crushed another hard thing. Oh, look, there's another 8 thing. Oh, he's done another 8-8. Oh my god, oh, there's an 8-8 plus. Oh, Jamie's crushing again. What's Jamie up to today? Oh, he's crushing again. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched loads of videos and looked at pictures and just to see kind of which routes looked cool and kind of made a list. And then when I got out there, I kind of just played it by ear and I checked out some of the routes that I kind of wanted to do, and others I would just kind of get the idea from somebody else to try. And I just kind of watch videos mostly to see which routes look cool.
Nice.
So I had a bit of an idea going out there, but I found I didn't actually get on any of them for a little while. It took me about, I think, a week until I started trying kind of harder routes, and then kind of got into it quite quick.
How hot was it?
Really hot to start with, like way too hot to climb in the sun at the start, but we still did. And then it kind of was just normal for a while, and in the sun it would still be pretty warm, so you tried to find shade. For the projects that I had, sometimes you'd have to wait until like the afternoon or evening when the sun went down to try some of them. And then there was a kind of cold period for a while, which was really nice. And then it was warm towards the end again.
Yeah. It's funny that like we just can't help ourselves, and I think it's part of being a Scottish climber. I've noticed this more with the Scottish climbers than anyone else. No matter how hot it is, and you know that you're not going to be able to try that hard in the first couple of days, and you know fine well it's going to be too hot in the middle of the day to climb, you just can't help yourself, can you?
Yeah.
Like, you get on hard stuff and you fail miserably because it's too damn hot, and you dehydrate yourself to death because you're trying to climb in the heat of the day, and all of the other Turkish climbers are chilling out in the shade looking at you like you're an idiot. We just can't help ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's when there is good weather, which you don't always get as much here, and there's good rock. I think the sight to climb kind of outweighs probably the rational. I should be waiting till it's shady or trying the right routes.
Right, so let's change tack a little bit. Although I'm going to do like a little introduction spiel at the start of this before the episode comes on, but although I'm going to introduce you as one of Scotland's strongest don't give me that face. One of Scotland's strongest up and climbing outdoor climbers, right? I am going to introduce you as that. It's not entirely true.
I know.
Right? It's almost not entirely true, because you've actually been around for quite a long time. You're not like, this isn't your first couple of years climbing like some 15-year-old crusher that's just come out of the wall. Your dad's had you out in the mountains for years and years and years, and you've come up through the competition scene. You've been a really strong boulderer for quite a while. You have been a strong boulderer. Okay, maybe not like V17, like Mr. Bosey, strong boulderer.
I think bouldering, like especially outdoors, is like my absolute weakest
Yeah,
discipline.
but you're strong. Look, when I say strong boulderer, you're stronger than me, right? And anyone stronger than me, I consider strong.
You've done Marks, right? I've not, so makes you the better boulder.
It's a numbers game. But you come up through bouldering, sport climbing, pretty strong for quite a while. You've definitely crushed harder things like Moy and Camel and stuff that I've ever done. So again, I'm considering you strong because you're stronger than I am. So actually, you're not quite up and coming because you've been around for a while, but you've kind of just
Maybe with the trad stuff.
yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say is you've taken that and you've changed gear slightly into trad climbing, and now it's your time to sort of really show us what you're made of, really show us what you can do. So you're not up and coming because you've been around for a while, but you're right in the middle of the journey. Like you've got a long way to go, and I'm super excited to see where you take this in all disciplines of climbing, not just trad as well. But super excited to see where you go. So let's dial it back a little bit into your before this trad epiphany that you've had, and tell us a bit about your sort of climbing history.
Yeah.
How did the classic question? How did that start? Where did it come from?
Well, I mean, my dad's climbed for years and years and years. He started probably when he was around 15-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly before, slightly after. So I guess when I was about 3 or 4, we probably went out climbing the first time.
Yeah.
We'd just go to trad crags where we'd top rope, and eventually we'd be seconding routes quite young.
Where did he used to take you?
So I mean, he's from the lakes, so
Right.
we've done a lot on the lakes and kind of Shepherd's Crag.
So were you born down the lakes then?
No, I was born up in Inverness.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've just done a good bit there.
Right.
But I probably started at King UC Crag here. Was probably the first place I ever climbed.
Nice.
So yeah,
Classic.
all the trad crags really. When we were seconding belaying before, we probably were able to actually catch him. He was he was basically soloing, and we'd be belaying, but at least we got to practice belaying. And yeah, so we did trad for quite a few years, and then eventually I got a bit tired of the walk-ins to be cold and belay for ages and then do a quick kind of easy route. So I kind of got out of climbing, but would just kind of do it at weekends or holidays, going outside. And then I think I was maybe like 14 when I saw competitions advertised, and I got into the indoor climbing, went into the indoor walls and started really getting into it.
Yeah.
And then
That's interesting. So you did take a bit of time away from climbing, not totally away from climbing, obviously, but dialed it back.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it like multiple days a week or anything.
Right, interesting.
I was just doing it kind of here or there outside.
Yeah.
And then
And it was about 14, you said, when you
I saw the kind of comps and
discovered the
indoors.
indoor scene.
Yeah, which I think was nice that I kind of discovered the sport-ish on my own.
Yeah.
I was obviously guided at the start, but I was the one that decided I really wanted to do it.
It makes a difference when that passion comes internally rather than externally. Makes a big difference.
So I started kind of doing the comps. I think 2016 was my first one. I saw the Scottish Speed and Lead Champs advertised, and at the time I couldn't do a lead kind of sport climb, and the speed looked easy because people kind of run up the wall, so it must be easy. And then I went, and,
I hope Matthew Fall listens to this. Must be easy.
Yeah, then I went and couldn't actually make up the speed wall, but I still had people in like the British team come and chat to me, and it was my first ever competition, and I've got people that have been doing it for years, or part of the British team just chatting to me. So I kind of just saw how fun it was, and the next year I went back. 2017 did the Scottish Lead Champs, and kind of barn doored off the second clip on both routes. But really enjoyed it again, and kept climbing. And then the next year I did every Scottish comp that there was, and then the year after that I did most of the comps in Britain. And then kind of COVID stopped comps the year after that.
Yeah.
Which kind of
Cut you down in your prime.
yeah, but it gave me time to kind of train at home. I think I never had a lot of confidence, so being able to kind of train and I don't feel confident about my kind of strength was helpful. But coming out of the lockdowns is when I kind of got more into the outdoors stuff again.
How did you find that transition from like climbing semi-regularly at the weekends every now and again, and then discovering the indoor scene and going to your first comp and realising like what the standard is, and then, you know, like you said, doing a few more comps and putting the effort in and training at home? Like, how did you find that transition? Like, you know, big eye-opening thing, knowing that you had to put a lot of work in if you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something just more fun about it than the other sports. Like, I'd done so many other sports, and I'd naturally done kind of okay in them. Like, I'd usually kind of make a podium or just do wellish in them. And then this was like the first sport where, without putting in work, I wasn't that good.
You got your ass kicked.
Yeah, so it was, but there was something about it. It was more fun than the other sports. The community side, just the whole sport was just more fun to me. So I stuck with it and didn't do super well, but I enjoyed it a lot more, and I had people that kind of supported me more. Like, I joined kind of the Team Langlands, probably in, I think it would have been 2018 or 19, and that kind of was huge to me, staying and just enjoying the sport and being really motivated and doing all the time.
Nice. It's really cool being part of like a good team.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice having that like solid group. And like you said, it's really cool going to the big comps and chatting to all these big names and cool people and stuff. There's not many sports where you can talk to, you know, the big dogs in the sport, but like, it makes a difference when you've got a solid team.
It kind of came around at the right time as well. I wasn't enjoying school that much. So to have a kind of a second family or just a really fun place to be kind of outside of school was really important at the time.
Stop it. If Pete listens to this, he's going to cry now. That's really interesting, actually. So I think a lot of kids, I've seen it quite a few times, where they're really good at a thing, or, you know, they go to most, like I said, you go to most sports and you're naturally pretty good at them, and you know, you can then drift to another sport and you're naturally pretty good at that. But then the sport that comes along that you get absolutely whooped at, it's like, well, I'm not interested in that. Like, most kids would be like, well, I'm not interested in that because I'm not good at that. So it's really interesting that you took it completely opposite way and went, whew, right, here's a challenge. Yeah. So was that like the moment, like, did you actually have like a moment of, I am going to be good at this? Like, I'm going to get good at this?
Yeah, I mean...
Or was it more just like, this is kind of fun, I'm going to stick around and see what I can do?
I really wanted to be good at it. You know, I enjoyed the comps. I think my reasoning with comps was that they had like the best routes, like the best set routes are always in comps. They're not just the average climb at the wall. So you get to do these cool routes, and you know, if I made finals, then you'd get to do an even better route. Like, that was the whole kind of the motivation really behind them, and I was a bit competitive as well, so I enjoyed the competitive side.
A bit. I remember seeing you in comps. You were a bit competitive.
Yeah, but I wasn't good at them either. So I don't know, and you know, I'd always heard, you know, if you don't do so badly, you work hard, and then you'll eventually do well. I kept doing badly, so I kept going back because eventually I wanted to do well. And eventually I felt like they would go well. I don't know if they did, but I think that's because I put too much pressure and made them mean a bit too much to me for like the stage I was at in climbing and in comps. But
it's easy to do.
Yeah,
easy to do. But
I enjoyed the days, enjoyed the place I got to go and the people I was climbing with and the routes I was trying. So I just kept doing them, and they felt, you know, I felt like I learned so much more from the competition than I did just going to the wall climbing. You know, your weaknesses were exposed. I felt like, you know, if you could perform in a competition, you could kind of can perform anywhere.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, like, there are obviously negatives that come from hyper pressurized competitive environments, but there's so many benefits from that you can learn from, like learning from failure, learning to deal with pressure, learning how to socialize with so many different personalities, because climbing has got a wide variety of different personality types, and like how to communicate with all these people and different backgrounds and stuff. It's there's a lot to learn from it. They're really cool, but like you said, it's super easy to put a bit too much focus on the result at the end rather than enjoying the experience.
I think with youth comps as well, with me starting them late, I felt like I was on kind of catch up. Like I had to catch up with all the people that started so early. So I had all this pressure of, like, I need to catch up with them before I'm out of youth comps. And I think I also wanted to go somewhere with them. Yeah. And I had only a limited time, so each one felt like it was the biggest thing, like, in the world. Like I really had to do well. Yeah. Which I didn't, because my overall kind of motivation with them was just to have fun and to learn from them. But in the day itself, I would always put a bit too much pressure on them.
Yeah. What was your ambition then? Like, obviously you said you were kind of putting all this pressure on because you wanted them. They had to mean something. You had to succeed because you had to get to the next thing. So what was that next thing? Like, what was the ultimate goal? Or did you have any idea what the ultimate goal was?
I think a little delusionally, like I'd have liked to have been competing like a higher level. Yeah. I was
delusionally. Like,
I wasn't sure enough or mentally like there, but that's what I wanted to be at, and it wasn't realistic, but it's kind of what gave a bit of purpose to them. Now I'm like, I don't think about that at all, but I still do them because of the reasons I kind of said before.
Yeah, because they're fun to do.
But now I've kind of like, on the day I can realise that and just
relax.
Yeah, exactly.
If you fall off early, so cool,
exactly.
Whatever. I'll wait till after the comp. I'll get back on it.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So I think it's taken a bit of a more mature head to kind of put what I know works in a comp into kind of practice.
Obviously, before you got into comps, you said that climbing took a little bit of a backseat. Mm-hmm. Outdoor climbing took a little bit of a backseat anyway. So during your competition phase, were you still outdoor climbing as much, like every weekend, like at the weekends or whatever, or did that totally stop for a little bit?
For a little while it did, but it was mostly the trad. I mean, we weren't. I never really knew about sport climbing or bouldering because that's not what my dad did.
There's also not a hell of a lot of it in the Highlands.
No, but I had no idea about that, and then we'd still go like climbing every so often outside, but not even at the weekends. It was very kind of irregular, more just at holidays. Yeah. But when I first started the comps, we started going on kind of climbing trips away, to kind of France and stuff. So I started kind of getting into the outdoor stuff then, and it was still a part of my climbing. Yeah.
I was going to ask if it did take a big backseat, which it sounds like it did. Like, how did you make your way back to it?
Yeah, I think like I'm not sure when it was, but I was started to do a bit of sport climbing here or there, maybe like 2019-ish. Like when I was starting to climb well indoors, I kind of knew about the outdoors stuff, and every so often we'd go out sport climbing because I still wasn't into trad then. I was quite against it still. So we started sport climbing every so often, and then I think there was a day where I was with some people and we went to the Camel because one of the guys there wanted to try Deaf as a Gift, the 8A there.
Oh yeah.
So I got on it as well, and I think that kind of really made me like, want to pursue kind of.
Did you crush it that day?
No, not that day.
Not that day. When was it you did that?
It took me a while until I actually did it because I started trying it way before I was ready for it. I think the hardest we'd been a few climb trips away. I think the hardest I'd done was maybe 7A plus. I think like Margalef. Yeah. So I started trying this route, whilst the hardest route I'd done was 7A plus outside. And I don't think
I'm noticing a theme here, Jamie.
yeah.
I'm noticing a theme here.
So I mean that kind of route and that place really got me like going outside a lot.
Yeah.
I think there wasn't as I think COVID came and then there wasn't as many comps on. So I was just going to the camel a lot.
Yeah.
Trying that route. I was doing bits of trad here and there eventually again. I mean, there's so many different things went on. Just trying to remember it all. Like I did in my head. There's like different times when I realized outdoor climbing was the thing. Like I was sport climbing here there, but I can't remember when it was like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing now. The trad stuff was somehow I was doing bits here or there, and I started to kind of learn to lead a bit as well, and did a lead route here or there. So I've got quite like a strong memory of, you know, when we've just been at home, you're only allowed like 5 miles away. There's no sport climbing 5 miles away from here, so you know, I had the offer of kind of going to the Cairngorms with Dad, and I realised that it'd be a fun way for us to get outside, and I really wanted to climb. Like, I really badly wanted to go and climb that wasn't on like a 45-degree board. So I was up for doing trad then, I think, and that made me realise like I'd be up for doing trad because I can have a day doing an easy, nice route, and then I can go home and keep up my strength. So
obviously COVID, the pandemic, like killed a little bit of, well, killed the comps for quite a while, and you know, I think for most people, outdoor climbing became the thing to do just because it was the only thing you could do.
Yeah.
But like, did you come into or come back to outdoor climbing, come back to sport climbing, and like you said, trying hard up at the camel and stuff? Like, did you come back into that with the same drive as you did in the comps? Like that same, I'm going to get good at this, I'm going to crush this.
The sport climbing, I definitely did. Like I think I was doing that just before COVID. The sport, like, especially like trying Deaf as a Gift. Like I was really ambitious to want to do that. And when I started getting close, it was like the only route I was trying for a while. But the trad was, I mean, like, I think it was, I started watching videos of people trad climbing. I saw the hard routes that looked like really nice. They were not just like a random bolted line up the rock. It was a really nice line.
Yeah,
so I wanted
there's like a visual feature.
Yeah. So I really wanted to do some of those routes, but my dad wouldn't. You know, he was very serious about that. You have to learn your kind of trade before you dive into the hard routes. Although I feel like with the hard stuff, if you were to top rope or to like ab down the line, you can rehearse it so much that it's not even like you don't have to be skilled. You're just learning a routine of placing this gear. You don't have to know how it works as long as...
Doesn't matter how you gear is if you don't fall off, right?
Exactly. But I eventually accepted his, like, you have to go and learn, so...
It's definitely... How can I word this without insulting your father? It's definitely... it's quite an old school attitude of, you know, learning your trade. But personally, I think it's a good attitude that shouldn't be lost, you know? Like, it's not the same in bouldering or sport climbing, you know? You can push yourself really hard really early.
Yeah.
Because the risks are relatively low.
Yeah.
You know, in reality, they're relatively low. Trad climbing, because those risks are so high and the consequences are so high, like, it is important to learn how to do it safely before you start pushing yourself. Because you see loads of people coming out of sport climbing and buying their first trad rack, and instantly they're like trying to crush E1s, E2s. Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're physically able to climb this stuff.
Yeah.
But what happens if that hold pulls off?
So, for me, last year is when I got into the trad climbing. Yeah. Like, I decided that, well, at the start of the year, I wanted to do sport climbing and get back into the comps. But then I started going out trad climbing a little bit. And then kind of, I think we had a trip down to the lakes where I think the goal was just to try and repeat the routes I'd seconded when I was really young, or to like lead them for the first time.
How big's that list?
Yeah. But eventually, like, we were at the crag. I think it was we had 2 days there. And on the first day, towards the end of the day, my dad said, "Do you want to try this E1?"
Yeah.
And I tried it and did it, and that was my first one. And then at the very end
What
of
did
the
you
day,
climb before then?
I guess H3S would have been the hardest I'd done. So last year, the
Right.
hardest.
So you did have like a nice little progression up to there at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I can't remember like a progression of grades up to E1.
Yeah.
I just kind of led random routes here or there. But then it was definitely Shepherds. I think it was April maybe where I did, my first E1. But that was on like my first few days of kind of actually tried climbing properly. And then at the end of the day of that day, I did a E2, where I kind of was just given kind of valuable lessons as well about not place it. That I knew I could climb the routes physically like really easily.
Yeah.
I was told to not skip bits of gear, just because you never know what could happen further up. A hold breaks or a foot
Yep.
slips.
We've all been there, and you'll continue to get into situations like that where you're like, "Oh, it's an easy route. I like that bit of gear is 2 meters away. That's fine." Right?
Yeah.
And you get way above it, and you're like, "Oh, wow,
Yeah,
pretty chossy up here."
and it's just that like that last bit of gear that you place is the bit that saves you when you you just see it and you place it. I kind of learned that lesson. Then the next day I did my first E3. There was a cool looking route that my dad and his friend knew, so they kind of I said I should maybe try it, and I did, and it was really good. And then I think that kind of got like I realized how fun the trad stuff can be.
Yeah.
So from then on, I just did loads and loads of mileage of kind of E2 ground, which it was lucky that I was kind of climbing at a good level sport.
Yeah.
Because it meant I could learn the basics and get loads of mileage on like E2.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
think
a fun grade to climb.
I like this is not going to be an advertisement that I'm going to make to the wider population, but having that physical climbing ability nailed, like knowing that you can climb reasonably hard stuff, does allow you to do, in air quotes, podcast air quotes, ready, easy climbing on like E1s, E2s, because I think that's a lot more beneficial for learning how trad climbing really works than doing it on diffs.
Yeah.
So there's no point like learning how trad climbing. Well, there's no point, but like I think it's harder learning quickly how trad climbing works on diffs when there's gear all over the place. You don't really need to think about it. You don't really need to try. There's no challenge in it. Yeah, you can just, every time you want a bit of gear, there's a big cam right in front of your face. Like that kind of stuff's easy, and it takes quite a while to learn the kind of intricacies.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're playing about on E1s where it's like the only gear is
the gear that's there.
Yeah. And you only get it when it's there and not when you want it. And it might be a bit fiddly and you got to really think about it. I think that's a much faster and better consolidation.
You get into a lot more unique situations, and you learn a lot more kind of things that are, I guess, going to help you in the long run. Like you can place gear on a no hands rest ledge every day of the week, but learn to do it when you're like a little bit tired, or like hanging off your arms and being able to kind of use one arm to like do everything on your harness. And
I suppose it's like, in saying that, like it's all relative. Like if whatever an easy route is for you, E1, E2, like that's going to be top end for a lot of people. So their easy routes are going to be severes and stuff. But like learning to trad on slightly harder stuff where you do have that challenge and you do actually kind of need to try a little bit, and it's maybe not quite as obvious. They're much, much, much more valuable learning. Yeah,
and I think that was the key to my kind of quick progression. Because I think after that, E2 is the hardest I did that one E3.
Whoa. Let's slow down a second. Let's slow down a second, because like we're getting into the really exciting stuff now. We've done your history. We don't care about that anymore. Now we're getting to the real nitty gritty, the exciting stuff. So like last year was like man, you went from 0 to 100. Like you said, like you started, you did your first E1, then immediately did your first E2, and then immediately did your first E3, and you know, then you could dial it back and did all this mileage, and which is really cool. But I don't know if you'll be able to put this in words, but what triggered that? Like, where did the spark come from? Of like, oh, this is cool. Was it like taking a discipline that you hadn't done a lot of before, that was maybe quite intimidating, and realizing that actually with all this background you've got in hard sport climbing and competitions, and it's like, oh, actually I can do all that easy, and it's just adding an adventure to what I could normally climb? Or was it like I don't know what I'm doing, I need to learn a new thing? Like, you know, when you start a competition, you're like, oh, this is a challenge, I need to get good at this. Like, what was the spark?
Oh, I think in climbing, I just love it for the movement. But easy routes in sport climbing, you could never really appreciate the movement because you do it unconsciously. But when I started doing some of those kind of, you know, easier routes on trad, I was still having fun actually climbing. The movement was easier, but I was still having fun. So I think I just realized I can kind of climb whatever and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be really hard or really easy, so I could just go and do lots of it. And then, there was I've never been so into the gear faff. Placing gear was kind of interesting. It's just still the belays and stuff were a bit of a faff. But then I started enjoying like the challenge of placing gear, and I guess, just the extra challenge of climbing, and runouts were interesting. And
Runouts are interesting. Oh, like, there's the title of this podcast. Runouts are interesting.
I don't know, they make easy climbing more thought-provoking.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
It's a really nice way to think about easy trad climbing, actually. I've never quite considered that, you know, like you said, easy sport climbing, because it's quite easy. You switch off from it, you don't really focus on the movement, and like by the end of it, you're like, oh, that was kind of cool, but you can't actually remember it. Whereas trad climbing, because you're a little bit more in the moment.
Yeah. And also,
that's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Yeah, by getting to my trad, it meant there was just more to do. Like, there's so much more climbing was now available to me. I was having these fun days out, especially with like my dad, doing the discipline that he knows really well. So that was loads of fun to me. I was just having much more memorable experiences going out climbing. And it was just another challenge to like, rather than like having to physically train to get good, it was like you just go climb lots and have a conscious effort of improving, and you would improve.
Here's a question. So I just listened to a podcast. God, I can't remember who it was now. Was it Bert Kreischer? Do you know the name Bert Kreischer? The machine.
Yeah.
I think it was him. And he was saying that, like, when kids come up in sort of teenage years, they just think their parents are dumb. I really hope your dad's going to listen to this. So you think your parents are dumb, and like you don't listen to them anymore.
I wouldn't say that.
No, but like
you
don't listen to your parents anymore. You kind of rebel against them, and you go your own path and you do your own thing. And then when you're kind of coming into your 20s, late teens, 20s, like you start to have a bit more of a, oh, actually they do know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, actually they're quite cool. Oh, they're quite good at this.
Yeah.
So like, you know, your dad taking you trad climbing when you were younger, and then you kind of going off on your own path, and then coming back to trad climbing with him again. Like, did you have that moment of like, Dad, I'm doing my own thing. Like, I'm going to go, and this is my area. And then when you came back, going, whoa, that guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew he was like a good climber. But when I was
I don't know, I'm not saying you actually thought he was dumb.
No.
I really hope he listens to this.
But when I was like sport climbing and doing the indoor stuff, there wasn't as much like he could, you know, give to me in terms of that stuff. Like I remember us being at the wall and him being taught how to route read, even though he'd been climbing for 30 years or more.
Yeah.
Well,
Old school trad daddies don't route read.
Yeah. But then when we started trad climbing together, you know, it was, I was learning lots. It wasn't like normal trad climbing with your friends either, where you just get to be there and start chatting. He'd get to me at the belay and immediately was telling me about every single bit of gear
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
placed and what my belay looks like, and stuff. It was really, our trad days were not just like normal going out climbing. Every day was a
Yeah.
purpose. Like every route we'd kind of talk about every route,
Yeah.
not just like how fun it was and stuff, but like what I
Like-
could have done better and stuff. So that all really contributed to me learning loads really fast, and that I kind of enjoyed that as
Yeah.
well.
I think your dad, like, he's a smart dude. Like, he could see it. He could see that fire burning in you, and he's like, right, these days out, we're going to use them, and I'll make sure that you're doing this right.
Yeah,
Because I think he could see what was coming.
yeah. And that's what I enjoy as well. Like going out climbing is fun, but I really like talking about the route and what
Yeah.
could be done better. Like I'm constantly looking what can be done better. If I get told, "Oh, that was all right, that was good," it's not that valuable. Whereas, yeah, I do like the criticism and
Good.
yeah.
See, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that will make you a really safe trad climber. It's really easy to only get compliments all the time and you never actually learn anything. And anytime someone says something negative about something you've done or gives you critical criticism or constructive criticism, it's really easy to switch off from that and just continue doing your thing. And then because you're never learning how to be safe. But because you're coming at this with the attitude of, like, tell me what I'm doing not quite good enough so I can be better at it. You know, that means, when you go start pushing your grades super hard, which we'll come on to, you're going to be safe when you're doing it. That's really important. So that's cool. And so what was going on in your head when you were starting to push these grades then? So obviously you did E1, E2, E3, and then you dialed it back and did a bit of mileage. And then when you started...
Well, it was the day we were at Cummingston.
Yeah, I was going to say, was this the next step? Because, man, that was a wild day.
Yeah, I think, it was. We were kind of just taking the kids out climbing for the day, and I think it was throughout the day I was kind of just looking at the prow there, because it's cool, there's big holes and it's
Such
steep.
a cool feature, right?
And it's not all sandy like the rest of Cummingston. And yeah, I think I was, like, once the session finished and I was just looking at it more, I remember you saying, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, I didn't expect to actually be trying it today. And yeah, I think I can't remember what I said, but I think it was just...
I remember it clear as day, because I could see you all day, you were staring at this route. Because it's the most beautiful feature out of the whole crag. It's gorgeous, and it's so imposing and impressive. And I could see you being inspired to get on it. And I led that thing when, I was 15, 16, something like that. And I haven't been back on it since. So it's been nearly 15 years.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to get back on it, but haven't had the confidence to get back on it.
Yeah.
And last year was like the first year I was like, actually, no. Like, I know that route. I can climb that route. So when I saw it in you, I was like, this is my excuse. I've got a belayer who's psyched. Let's go. Let's do it.
Now, I'm not a super confident person, so I probably wouldn't have just gone, can I get a belay on this? Like, I needed somebody
that little kick first.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was there to be able to give you that kick, because, man, it was impressive.
And for me, I think I'm quite different, especially from my dad, in that I won't just go and take risk or put myself in a position where I'm not sure what will happen.
Yeah.
So, to have you there to be able to, like, who knows the route and would go up it first was really nice. It meant I got to second it, felt really kind of easy and was just good fun. Yeah, I was like immediately ready I was like super confident just to get on it.
Yeah. It was so cool. Like, you seconded me up it, and I was like, do you feel like you could lead that? And you're like, yep, let's go.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's rock. And you absolutely cruised it. And, like, there was definitely a switch flipped of, like, right, hard trad grades, if you're a strong sport climber, aren't that hard. Yeah. Like, if you're an 8A sport climber, they're not that hard. As long as you can control the head game, all good. So, like, what was going through your head kind of before that route and on the route? like taking it to that next level. Because, you know, bumping the E5 from E3 that's a big deal in trad climbing.
Yeah, I'd only done one E3 before that. One
Yeah.
that my dad and his friend were.
I mean, that's a big deal. Like,
Yeah, I think I wasn't super stressed. Like, I knew the kind of holds in it, and I knew like that wire that protected the kind of the middle of the route. That was so. I knew how good that was because I had to. Like, I was so hard to get out the first time. So
yeah, I was a bit scared there, so I welded it. Apologies.
no, I think I did the same when I
Yeah, you
led
did.
as well. Okay, did you had to sit on the rope?
I had to sit on the rope to get it out. Yeah.
So I think I was pretty relaxed starting up it. I think I was just chatting to you whilst I was going up that kind of right side.
Yeah, like you're in the middle of the crux on an E5, chatting away.
Yeah, so I was pretty relaxed, and then there was the one move when you're going from the jugs just kind of out to the very edge that I kind of stopped talking on, and it did, and then it was just a fun experience. I was just trying to stay as relaxed as possible.
Nice.
And to do that, I think chatting can be kind of fun to do that, and then quiet when you need to focus. It was just good fun, I think.
That's sick. And like, so afterwards, did you have a moment to kind of do your own little internal feedback and think about the route and be like, that was good, or I could work on that, or was it just like, game on, let's go, I can do this, let's do it?
Oh, I think when I was at the top, I was like, oh, that was fun. Like, that was so cool just to do a route that had a bit more fall potential, and it was more of just that was a cool experience, and it was the start of like, I know if I work, either go up a route first, like kind of checking it out and stuff, I can do some really cool ones now, and I don't have a lot of thought process sometimes. And that's why I think chatting to somebody is good. It's because they can provoke the thought process.
Sometimes on like super scary routes, it's good not to have a thought process as well.
But I think once I loaded down, I was having to set up the app so I could come down. Like, I'm pretty sure I was just like smiling the whole time. I was really happy.
That was such a cool end of the day. Such a cool end of the day. And like, you know, for people that don't know what route we're talking about, the prow at Cumminston is, I mean, it's not a super tall route, but it's super mega overhanging.
Yeah, I don't think it's a super hard E5 either. I mean, even if it was E4 or 3, whatever was given.
But I mean, those holds in the crux, they're not great. They're kind of slopey, and if you're not good on slopers, and from the crux move, the fall potential is death.
Yeah, I think
so. It is a super serious route, but magical one for your first E5.
To us, I didn't care much about the grade either, because I didn't know what grade it was or the route name when I was looking at it. I just thought it looked cool, and that's all that really mattered to me. Was there was a fun route, no matter if it was soft or hard or whatever.
That's such a like an old school amazing attitude to come at climbing with. Is like, that looks cool, I want to climb it. Not looking at the guidebook going, what's the next like big grade I can take. Because you didn't even know it was E5 when you did it, did you?
No, you told me after.
Yeah, I didn't even tell you beforehand. You were just like, that looks sick, I want to climb that. Yeah. Strong work. Which E5 6B? E5 6A?
I don't know.
E5 anyways. Mega route. Super impressive. And so, you know, like that was midsummer. Was it midsummer? About midsummer. Yeah, about then. So. You know, you've crushed this E5, but it wasn't very long after that you took on Dalriada.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of time, maybe. It was
like a month.
Oh, it was September I started trying it.
Was it?
Yeah, I tried it in like first few days of September.
Right.
Yeah, because there was I'd done this with Death as a Gift, where I wanted to do 8A before I turned 18.
Yeah.
And with this, like a route coming up when I turned 20 in the end of September, it was never like I was a bit annoyed, like this is going to be a bit of pressure because I did that to myself before. But yeah, I wanted to get it done quickly. The idea had come at the start of the year. When I was just getting into my trad, I was chatting with Anna Wells, Inverness Wall. She was mentioning that she might want to try it. And So I had this idea that I wanted to try it kind of the whole year. And then the weather was never like
Yeah,
good
last
when we
summer
wanted
was a
to go and
bit.
do it. Yeah. And then I guess at the end of the year I got a message from Nick Wiley.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to go try it with him and his clan partner Sam. I'd met Nick at Dunkeld.
Yeah.
I'd mentioned that it'd be cool to try someday. And somehow, I guess he remembered me saying that and messaged me if I wanted to join them. So, yeah, it was kind of early September, and I drove down for the day. They were both kind of already ready for lead attempts because they had a session before. Originally that day I was thinking, maybe I'll give a lead goes or not. But when I was there, it was like, I think I'll just second it. Today it's quite a big route. I've never tried something so hard.
Yeah,
so
going for the ground up on that would be...
Yeah.
That's ambitious. It's what grade is it? E7...
6B.
E7 6B.
Yeah.
So that's a wild route, man. And it's one of Scotland's most iconic routes as well.
I think it's Britain's best looking route. I can't think of a better looking route either.
It's just stunning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just comes with all this history and lore, and it's a big one to take on. So yeah, I totally understand the cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have a seconding day. Yeah,
so I got to have 2 go seconding it. The first was all going well, and then in the kind of steepest part, I kind of climbed a bit off route and couldn't down climb, so I just asked to take.
Yeah.
So I could get back into place. Not thinking about the overhang, so when I took, I was well out from the wall and couldn't get back on, so I had to lower. And then I got to, on my second go seconding, I did the route clean until the head wall where I slipped on the crimps, but got back on and then did it and realised I can do all the climbing. I've got a really good memory for routes as well, so I memorised just from seconding every bit of gear.
Nice.
And all the
moves.
Makes
a big difference, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I remembered every single move. So I think it was a couple of weeks later when we were trying to organise us to go climb again.
Yeah,
there's a weather window, a really good bit of weather coming up that I knew was really good. I think it was the night before. I saw the weather was really good the next day. I don't think they were available. So I messaged one of my dad's friends, Paul Forburn or Storky.
Yeah.
And just asked if he would come and belay me on it, and he was up for it. So I had my first couple lead goes. First go, I was like, I'll do the routes. It didn't feel that hard, and remember all the gear goes. And as I was going up, I was climbing it horrendously, bit more nervous than I thought I would be. And then I think at the first physical crux, I just kind of pumped out. I couldn't figure out my feet at all and came off, which was my first trad fall as well, which was nice to take.
Sorry?
I wasn't climbing hard stuff in the rest of the year, so I never had the chance to really come off.
You took your first ever trad fall on an E7?
It was a safe fall, though. It's a pretty safe route.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dude, that's impressive. To get to E7 and be pushing it without having taken a fall, and because I don't think people, I don't know how you felt about it, but I don't think people truly understand how the gear all works or have 110% confidence in it until they've taken a fall, and it's actually it's all good. Yeah. So to not even have that experience yet before getting on an E7 is wild to me.
I find sometimes you just have to block out what can happen. You trust that what you've placed is good, and you kind of understand how the gear should work. So I have this I've never been super scared being above my gear, because probably you shouldn't, because when there's times where you just shouldn't fall off.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty good at just switching off. It's just a bolt down there. Just tell yourself you have to go into a bit of sport climbing mode to get through sections.
No, don't go into sport climbing mode.
Well, you just
sport climbing mode is it's cool. It doesn't matter what happens. I can fall off at any point. Trad climbing mode is cool.
Yeah.
I'm in a no fall zone.
I'd say when I tell myself, when there's times you just need to try hard.
Yeah.
your gear is below you to a point where there's nothing else you can do. The climbing is not your physical limit, and you know there's gear coming up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to flick the switch of it's
And
time
do
to
it.
it's time to try hard. Go to the next section. I'll place this gear. Then you can start thinking again on all the kind of everything else that's happening. But like that's kind of how I was with stuff. So I wasn't super scared, and yeah, I took that wee fall. It wasn't.
How was the fall then?
It was good. Yeah, it was just onto like a cam. The guys were saying it was like the worst bit of gear on the route, but I thought it was really good. I got it really deep in this like crack, so it was good. And it was another wire that I would, if that came out, I'd be on to next. That's really good. And it was just into space because the route is steep. So.
Did you have a moment where you just stopped, you just landed in the rope, and you look up and go, did hold?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, it was like, oh, that was all right. That wasn't too bad. And then I think I just pulled back up.
Yeah.
Rested, and then I went to the head wall from there.
Yeah.
I think I rested on one of the pegs up there.
Right.
And then did
How
the
are
head
those pegs
wall.
looking these days?
They're all pretty good. One of them you can lift out.
Pretty good then, yeah?
On most of them. that one maybe not, but the rest of them are pretty good. I don't think there's as many as there used to be though. I think I've heard there used to be loads.
Yeah.
Now there's 2 right at the bottom next to each other, and then 2 right before the head wall, and then 2 next to each other, kind of at the base of the head wall.
Yeah. How tough is that head wall?
I'd say that's the crux of the route.
Yeah.
Like, definitely the red point crux, because no matter how good the rests are before, you've still got this like lingering tiredness and a bit of mental tiredness as well that you just have to be really switched on up there. Friction's a bit hard because you're holding on to like little quartz holds. They're really small, so it's pretty hard. I mean, I never took the kind of famous fall that's like really big and quite safe in it, because on my first like lead attempt, I rested on those base pegs and then climbed the whole thing and found a spot that in the middle of the head wall for like a blue cam. That's maybe makes
blue.
Yeah,
right.
It maybe makes the head wall a little less safe because if you take that fall from the very top, you might clip the head wall. Whereas if you just had the pegs, you would just go into space.
Yeah,
but I quite liked having a bit of gear up there in the middle.
Yeah, I get the fear of pegs that have been there for a while that I didn't place.
Yeah,
totally get the fear.
But it's just nice to have gear closer to you that rather than like way below your feet, because that is really run out head wall. So yeah, I placed a cam there and then went to the top and it was all right. Second lead go, it was the kind of same. Like it was much better. I climbed all the way to the head wall, thinking I was doing the route, and I think I just placed my feet way too low. So when I was clipping the peg, I was having to lock off a bit, and I went from being totally fine to absolutely boxed in like seconds, and just there was nothing I could do. I came off, but that fall was like a top rope fall because the peg was above my head, because I had managed to clip it, and then I went to the top from there, and then I think it wasn't until the end of the month, the 29th of September, when I got the message again if I wanted to go and try the route, and that time I went and stayed at a friend's house down there. When staying at theirs just meant I didn't have to wake up at
stupid o'clock.
Yeah, to drive 3 hours. It was a half-hour drive instead.
Coming out of that a little bit more fresh.
Yeah, and on the way there, I was just listening to I think one of Hazel Finney's podcasts on performing kind of under pressure a bit and stuff, and just kind of took her advice that she'd given to the world.
Shout out Hazel.
Yeah. Well, in the podcast, I think the main bit I took from it was en route she'd set like a primary and secondary objective. So, or like there was an overall objective, but there was these kind of smaller ones that would help to progress that one. So for me, I made it that all I wanted to do was get established on the head wall. Like I just wanted to get to the head wall.
Yeah.
Like I knew I could get there kind of fine, and it doesn't matter what happens on it as long as I get onto it. It's that's the objective ticked. That's better than what I did last time.
Yeah.
But when I got there, the kind of the objective would change. Like the overall objective is always to do the route.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I just set the day out to be. Is like I just want to get established in the head wall. If I do the route, that's cool.
Yeah.
And the day went really well. We got up there, and Sam and Nick said they were going to go set up the belay. So I just started warming up. It was pretty cold at the start of the day, which I knew would suit me best because I've got such sweaty skin. Like the colder conditions would be better for me. So before kind of saying anything to them, I decided I was going to go first.
Yeah.
Because it was windy as well, and so I was all warmed up by the time they got down to me, and I decided I was kind of ready to go, and it all just went really, really well. Like I think it was the most fun I've ever had on a route, like the most in the moment I've been. I wasn't like super focused on the climbing, and that I didn't pay attention to anything else. The climb was going easily, and I was focused on it, but I was aware of like, I don't know, just kind of everything else that's happening around. I was at the rest, I was just looking at the view and taking it all in. The very last rest at the top, I was kind of just happy to kind of, again, looking at the view, listening to the sounds around, and then, I just kind of switched on when it went onto the head wall, and it just all went really easily. Apart from like, before you top out, I lost like where my holds were, and I couldn't find this like left-hand hold so I could go into the top. So I was searching around, it just felt like a wee dimple in the rock. So I just laid like really far away from it and just kind of slapped on top and did it. And it was, I don't think I even had a celebration or anything. It was just, really fun. Like
Nice.
There's never, not had that much fun kind of climbing before.
Man, it's so cool when you've had this big objective for a while and you've put a load of work into it and stuff, and it turns out to actually be a proper magical experience.
Yeah.
That's sick.
It's, I mean, I think,
It's such a route as well. Like, it is one of the most iconic routes. It looks stunning. And you got the photo of you on it, which is the most important thing, obviously.
I was wearing just
didn't
grey clothes.
Didn't happen if you don't have the photo for Insta.
Yeah. But I mean, it was definitely like, I realised it was a kind of special moment. Like,
that's it.
The kind of my first real like hard route. And it kind of just felt like the start of things.
Well, talking about the start of things, then obviously, like we're coming into the new summer sending season, and you said you came into last year already kind of thinking about Dalriada as maybe an objective, and then it became much more realistic as an objective, and then you absolutely crushed it. So, do you have a new objective this year? Like, what's on the cards?
There's no... A specific route is hard because last year I knew the route was kind of safe, and it was just like super, super inspiring, that route. Sadly, there's no other better looking route. There's no cooler line. But I think I just want to develop on the skills I learned from Dalriada, and that now I think I've earned the right to try more hard routes. So
damn right, you've earned the right to try hard routes.
I've put in like a lot of the mileage, to learn the gear and to be safe. So I think this year I just want to kind of see how it goes. I think I get inspired by routes by just talking to climbing partners and stuff. So I just need to get out climbing, I think.
There's a bunch of, if you're wanting to really push grades, then it's the physicalness is almost an easy tick. Like, we know how to train, we know how to get strong. Whatever the route requires, we can train specifically if we need to or whatever. Like, that's almost an easy tick.
I think
it's the mental side of it that is maybe the long one to get over. And like you said, if you're able to have that moment of switch, it's game on, it's time to try hard. That's a really cool skill to have. And there's loads of actually super safe E5s and stuff around Scotland.
I still need to do an E6 because I've not done one yet. So. I'll do that.
Nobody cares about E6. Nobody cares about E6. But like, there's so many super safe E5s out there that feel super bold, but the fall is actually totally sound and the gear's bomber. So like, they're really good ones to get on to just hone that game on skill. And then, man, it's go after that. Robbie Phillips, watch out.
I think there is a cool opportunity to that him and Dave McLeod put up so many first ascents and done second ascents of each other's routes. There is the cool opportunity to do third ascents, but maybe not yet. I've set out my like objectives of the year and what I want to get out of this year. With the trad, there's no grade that I want to achieve. I don't want to. I think when you start at the stage I've done, if I want to push new grades now, then I'm getting into territory where routes can be more dangerous and stuff. So I think sport climbing, it's fine to. I'm not trying to grade chase, but to want to push to another grade, because it just means a new level of understanding movement and your climbing. It just brings your whole climbing up by trying to look towards difficulty you've not done before. So with sport, I'd like to keep pushing the grade, but trad, there's no grade objective for the year. It's
about climbing the iconic.
It's just doing more good looking routes, but also developing on the skills from last year and really solidifying them. Like, I was on-sighting I on-sighted loads and loads of E2s last year. I did a few E3s, so I think this year, to up my level of understanding of, and my level of ability of on-sighting, it's just to try some kind of 3s and 4s, maybe some 5s as well.
E3 is the best grade. E3 is the best grade, where it's like you're pretty much guaranteed safety, but the climbing's super interesting.
And I don't think I understand trad grades enough yet to know a route and be like, I can do this on site. I can probably head point whatever, but knowing not whatever. Like at a certain grade, I can probably head point most of them. But so figuring out what's in the harder stuff as well, it's figuring out what's projectable, what's doable in a day, what's a long term project. That stuff I've got to figure out still. So I just need to get on a load of different climbs, I think, and see what comes.
Like, because I know that E3 is my favourite grade. Like, I want to be able to climb E3 forever. And to do that, my sport climbing grade needs to be about 7B plus. And then I know I am totally confident stepping on any E3 and it's all good. Like, beyond that, like E4s, E5s, I've got to think about it a little more before, But you'll learn that, line yourself. You'll learn like what sport grade you need to be at to be able to confidently tick X. That'll all come with the practice.
So I think with trad this year, I'm just gonna at the start need to just like, I've not even, because I've been away sport climbing, I just need to get out, try and climb loads at the start. Like, I just need to do as much as I can, which is it's hard when you're busy, but I'll try and do that a bit, and then I think eventually there'll be routes that come into mind that I'd like to do. I mean, it was only last year that I don't think I'd even done my first E1 yet at this time last year. So I've still got a bit
now
of
look what you've done. That's where I'm just like kind of excited to see what you do this year. Like, I'll be proud of you if you just take a year and do scheduled to mileage climbing all the like up to E5, E6 classic routes, because you'll have such a good year, man.
That's what I'd like to do, and then maybe like get a couple of like really cool routes in as well.
What about multi-pitch land? Like, are you psyched on multi-pitch stuff, or are you?
There's more skills, I think, to learn. I've done quite a few now. Like the shelter zone was really fun last year. Doing
you
needle,
did steeple, right?
And the needle,
and the needle. Nice.
They were both really good fun. And I've done other ones, like when I was just first learning trad. There isn't not a lot of single pitch stuff in some of the places I was going to, so I was doing multi-pitch at the same time as learning single. And I've done more multi-pitch trad than I have done sport multi-pitch. So I'm definitely keen to do more of that.
Sweet. You should look at getting out to like the islands and doing some big adventurous stuff, because like that's the kind of territory where you can climb on Severe's VSs, and have just the most adventurous, scary experience. Scarier than you'll find on any E7. When you're 50 meters from a roaring sea. I hope it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point that will happen. Not too sure when, but yeah, at some point it will. I think I've got a trip planned for the end of the year.
Oh yeah,
in August I'm going to Sweden, to Bohuslän.
Hell yeah, nice.
So there's a wee festival thing there that's on for a couple of days, but then there's kind of friends I made when I was in Spain.
Yeah,
that I'll get to climb with there from there.
Nice. Well, I am psyched to see how this year goes for you, and keep me in the loop. I liked climbing with you as well. It was fun that day. In fact, I think the Prow was the last route we did together. Yeah. More of that, please. I quite liked it.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, what a cool guy, yeah? What a cool guy. I feel reinvigorated after that. I've got a new perspective to what trying hard and what climbing means. Really lovely attitude to climbing. Really, really good attitude to climbing, actually. Yeah, very impressed with Jamie. Really cool to hear from a young gun that's still maybe come up through that traditional method of climbing outside and then finding indoor climbing, getting strong, and then taking that back outside again. Really, really cool to find a young person that's still going through that traditional climbing upbringing, sorry. Yeah, really cool to hear it from Jamie, and thank you so much, Jamie, for taking the time and sitting down with me. And I consider myself privileged to have been at least a small part in his journey. That day we had at Cummingston was so impressive and inspiring to see. But like Jamie was telling you, his dad, long-time mountaineer, long-time climber, making sure that he is keeping it safe out there and teaching him the right way. I bet you there's one thing his dad is making sure he's doing every time, is doing his buddy checks. You should too.